everyone. Welcome to episode 35 of our AI GTM Talk series. Um, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we kicked off the series of talks several weeks ago, where we bring on some amazing AI GTM tech CEOs who go deep into different areas. Um, and We otherwise bring on AI GTM leaders, you know, uh, who are on the growth side, demand different areas within GTM. The common theme being all of us are working on helping companies, SMB, mid-market enterprise, transform their go-to-market using AI. Um, and so, super excited to bring back. Thank you, Vijay, for joining us. So, with us is Vijay Damoji Purapu, who he'll quickly tell us, a little bit about his background. Then we'll get into a very interesting topic for today, which we haven't, addressed it in this talk series before. Um, so the title for today's session is From Noise to Narrative, Developing an Enterprise Point of View or POV for the AI GTM era. Vijay came up with this amazing topic for discussion. We'll get into it. Let me just put up the next slide. Vijay, I'll just take 30 seconds to introduce the two of us. Obviously, I'll talk about us, and then you can introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the discussion. So, folks, a little bit about us. Again, uh, we run this business. It's called Quanzu. We are aggregating buying signals, person level, company level, on the website, off the website. Very soon, we are adding social channels. Very valuable data, high quality signal data that can be used in many different ways for driving outbound campaigns, for personalization on websites. There's multiple use cases, but for the most part, customers have been using it to basically drive pipeline using buying signals. So that's me in a nutshell. And I'm going to now introduce Vijay. Vijay, over to you. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about what you do. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Mani. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the time zone you're joining us from. Super
Yeah.
excited and at the same time grateful for you to take the time and join us. And at the same time, thank you, Mani, for having me again. As you said, I enjoyed the first time we met on this show, enjoyed the conversation, and excited to be back here for a second time with a different topic, different angle that is so very relevant, especially in the AI infused world that we are
Mhm.
in today.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about me, as it says on the slide over there. Yes, founder and go to market at my company, which the name is Strativ. So, through my work, I actually get literally a front row seat into the various go to market challenges, all the way, and typically for companies that are in the range of like 10 million in annual revenue to 150 million annual revenue, and I would even dare say like 2 billion in annual revenue. So
Okay.
that's a wide spectrum. But having
Yeah.
said that, I enjoy working with and advising founders at really very early stage, even like
Mhm.
500K in annual revenue or even $0
Mhm.
for that matter. So it's a wide spectrum. That's what I do, and that's why the name and my title, which is more like a go-to-market architect. So
Mhm.
imagining, understanding the challenges when it comes to a company, a brand, or a product's go-to-market,
Mhm.
and then figuring out a way, a path forward for the next 30, 60, 90 days, or even the next 12 months.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Vijay, again for joining us. And let me get into it. We'll tee up some questions to you, and I know you have some information material you put together on this very interesting topic. Again, to reiterate, we're going to be talking about how to develop an enterprise POV. So now I know you've been working with B2B teams, as you said, in different stages of evolution of the business.
Yeah.
So can you kind of connect for us what is an enterprise POV and how does that relate to a company's go to market? Because a lot of the folks listening are interested in how to drive more pipeline, build brand, but at the ultimate goal being building pipeline. How are these interconnected in your mind?
Yeah, so great question, great way to start this conversation. So POV stands for point of view. I
Yeah.
just want to make it clear and sure for all the audience here. So having a point of view is super, super important. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I say that is today, a lot of the buyers are kind of lost with the messaging that's out there from the different brands. Uh, and the reason why having a POV and why it's so important, especially for an enterprise go to market motion, is number one, it really clearly articulates who you stand for or what you do and why you as a brand matter in this day and age. So
Mm-hmm.
that's from why you should be focusing on that. And second, for the market and for the buyers and the users, is they are constant. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of noise, a lot of AI buzz, a lot of product, a lot of use cases, a lot of promises, a lot of hollow promises as well, and they're
Mm.
confused. So for them, it is for the buyers and users is that having the ability to really connect with a brand. And the question is, can I trust this brand with
Mm.
the struggles that I have today?
Got it.
Yes,
Got
I
it.
see the website and the content, but there's the intangible aspect, which is the trust, right?
Mm.
That's why it's super important from a buyer and a user perspective.
Got it. Got it. So I know you have some material. Maybe we can get into just one level down, like what are the key elements, right? That people need to be thinking about in formulating or developing that POV for the company.
Absolutely. So let me make it even more real here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I assume you can see the screen that I'm sharing here.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
we can see it.
okay. So the way I go about it, it's a framework that I have developed and put together based on my learnings from
Mm.
various people across the board.
Mm.
Uh, these people that I really studied from and learned from are
Yeah.
experts in like brand, demand, even classic advertising, and so on, right? And if I have to boil it down and give you a framework, give a
Mm.
framework to the audience as to how to craft the enterprise POV, it all starts with these like what 3 plus 2 5 questions slash prompts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make it even more real. Let's say let's start with the first one, which is what your buyers are trying to achieve
Mm.
and why they're stuck.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it down and ground it to even more like a real world scenario that most of the audience must be and can connect with. So, for example, let's say the classical responsibility of a CMO or a
Mm-hmm.
demand gen person is about building, helping build pipeline for sales and for
Mm-hmm.
the brand, right?
Right.
So every marketer or marketing leader that I talk to is clearly under pressure to improve and deliver on pipeline and pipeline impact, not just MQLs.
Yeah.
But they're stuck because the data is fragmented. And there is also the other aspect, quote unquote, the dark funnel, where buyers and the buyer journey is invisible, at least for the early part across different channels,
Right.
right? So that's an example. So if I have to really articulate what that first point is, I just gave an example for all the folks who are listening in, right? So that's how you actually tee it down. Like you need to understand your buyers, what they're trying to achieve, and why they're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing worth noting is you're right. It's always been hard, right? But there is some more newer technology that's and data driven, right, information that's making it a little bit easier if you just look at the last 12 to 18 months. But the point is well taken, right? Which is this is probably should be one of the first things any marketer, as you said, really needs to understand at a deep level for their own business. So,
Correct.
marketer all the way, I mean, pretty much across the leadership. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you go to the next prompt over there, like what the competitors are talking or and doing today, so that's super important. Yes, having a good lens on your buyers, their problems is key. but you also cannot afford to ignore your competition.
Hmm.
So continuing with the example of the CMO and the demand gen growth person that I mentioned earlier, clearly they are looking to build the pipeline and deliver on MQLs, or a lot more than just MQLs. But there are tons of vendors out there who keep talking about AI personalization,
Yeah.
right? And predictive scoring. Yes, a lot of buzzwords, but no one is really actually showing or connecting the dots. When I say no one, it's definitely some exaggeration here. But the
Mhm.
point to be noted here is how many of those brands and the vendors are really helping the CMOs and the demand and growth people, the teams, in articulating and connecting the dots from the signals in the
Hmm.
market from a predictability score point of view to how and which of the accounts and the leads should we be targeting. It's really
Hmm.
connecting the dots and make it simple.
Got it.
Okay. So that's what you need to have a lens. Again, going back to the point over there, what your competitors are talking, and doing,
Hmm.
and what are the gaps. So you need to find the gaps and frame or improve or sharpen your narrative so that
Hmm.
you can fill in those gaps for your buyers.
Got it.
Make sense, Money?
Yep. And the third one is you want to get into is
Yeah, the third one is the unspoken truths of the market, right? So again, the way to really get someone's attention is the real issue isn't really lack of leads. Going back to the example of the CMO demand and growth personas, the real issue is not really lack of leads, but it's more likely than not marketing and sales teams not aligning on the definition of a lead.
hmm
Going to the next level, are they aligned on the signals that they should be honing in on in
hmm
identifying which is the right account, which is the right, who's the right person we should be
yeah.
targeting as a joint team.
Hmm.
So that's an example of an unspoken truth of the market,
Okay. Okay.
right? Even though we started with, okay, we need to deliver on MQLs, but many people might be overlooking the fact that, hey, there's a disconnect happening between marketing and sales when you
Got it.
go to the next level. And then you actually frame and show the new way forward, right? Again, going back to the example that I was talking earlier, how about having a very point of view led go to market system? And when I
Yeah.
say point of view, go back to how well you're really articulating and understanding your buyers, what
Hmm.
they're struggling with, and why your brand is uniquely positioned to help them. Build
Hmm.
that awareness and build that trust first. And once you get them through to your pipeline, of course, they'll want to see the product. That's when you actually show up and open up your product and the features and the marquee ones.
Hmm.
So that's how I would advise and guide the people in developing a very enterprise focused point of view. And all
Okay.
of these things have to connect and resonate. Again, I got more material to share.
Hmm.
This is more of the groundwork here. At the same time, the last point over there is you also need to call out to your buyers the risk of standing still, why they cannot afford to stand still. That is super important and a key
Yeah.
element in your narrative.
Right. Right. And I know other people talk about it as the cost of doing nothing. And same notion, right? Which is
Yeah. So I would actually clarify that, money. I mean, cost of doing nothing typically it becomes even bigger when it
hmm.
comes down to like a sales conversation.
Hmm.
Uh, Imagine a scenario where you have the champion on your side, but then
Hmm.
the champion is not able to get the peers or the other key stakeholders
Hmm.
aligned, right?
Hmm.
And then the salesperson, a really good salesperson, will actually articulate and create
Hmm.
that sense of urgency, not just with the champion, but even with the peers.
Yeah.
I'm actually talking one level higher, which is as
Hmm.
a brand, you
Hmm.
should create the sense of urgency, not just for that champion and the peers within one account, but for the entire market. So, how do you do that?
Understood. Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah. So, that's the framework in how brands can develop an enterprise
Got it.
go to market point of view.
Got it. Let me tee up the next question then, which is, I think next we should probably talk about. Look, obviously I look at these as I call it my appointment learning, which is I get to learn from guys like experts like you. So my next question, as I'm reflecting on the things you just said, is how do we now make it a little more tangible, which is um, how do I surface those specific signals or patterns that can shape my enterprise POV? How do I bring
Yeah,
that POV to even formulate a POV, right? Because there's you talk about noise on the outside, but now there's noise on the inside. So if let's say
correct.
I'm the CEO, or let's say I'm the CMO, or CRO, any of the executives, there's so much noise from different groups and teams and within the enterprise and different, so then it's back to how do you understand the signals, the patterns that shape the POV. I think, yeah, why don't we talk about that next?
Yeah, great
What's the
question.
process?
And I'm so glad that you asked this, Money. I mean, having a framework is only one thing, but it all starts aligning internally. And it starts
Yeah.
with the CEO.
Okay.
Okay, and start with the CEO, and typically folks from marketing and sales, and even like product, I would
Hmm.
say. And if I look at the flywheel here, I would ask you and everyone on this live webinar to focus in this first box. This is
We
super
don't see. Are you sharing some information? We don't see a
sorry.
screen yet. Okay.
Okay, Clayla, I'm not sharing. Okay, let me stop share
Yeah.
and restart the share. Give me
Mhm.
1 second. Okay, how about now?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if you can zoom. Yeah, zoom in. Yeah, this is good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the flywheel that I talk about in terms of how you first of all build a point of view, but then what kind of signals do you need to look for to see if you're getting traction in the market and how do you amplify?
Hmm.
And to your question, let's focus on this first box here. Point of view is a way for you and your brand to build authority. But then how do you really build authority? And
Hmm.
typically, I've seen like three sources as a team. That's what you need to really dig into. So, first is market insight.
Hmm.
And when I say market insight, how often are you as a leadership team or a cross functional team talking and staying in touch with your target accounts, customers, even peers and thought leaders, right? So,
Hmm.
that's one. And the customer proof. Clearly, if you have found early product market fit,
Yeah.
like about 500K to 1 million in annual revenue, clearly you have set of customers. Going back to the whole enterprise go to market motion, that would
Hmm.
translate to at least 10 customers, at
Hmm.
least, right? So your job is to go back and really study why they chose your brand versus someone else, and what
Hmm.
are the business outcomes that they were able to achieve with that. So that's the second source. And the third is, yes, you got the internal views, the internal insights. You also have the customers that are hopefully happy with the product and the services that you provided and they're willing to share. But you cannot afford to ignore the third pillar over here, which is the thought leaders and credible voices in the industry.
Hmm.
Now, if you talk to a lot of the enterprise go-to-market teams, they would say more often than not, it's the analysts. It's a debate. I won't go into that in this conversation. If analysts are really thought leaders and credible voices, yes, you have good ones, and then you have the rest of the folks. But then there are other established people who really make you and your buyers rethink the approach.
Hmm.
So as an example, I think before we jumped on this call live, when you asked me a question, which is who do I look up to and who are the people that I read or follow that has led to building this point of view,
Yeah.
right? And more often than not, I mean, yes, there are the current traditional folks who are there today, but I would also go back to the classics like Al Rees, Ogilvy. They are the pioneers when it comes to really understanding the
Hmm.
market, getting a pulse of the buyers and the users, and how to articulate and create a tagline or a ad copy and get the attention of your target buyers in a matter of few seconds.
Hmm.
That's a super, super hard challenge and a task.
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are the kind of people. So when I say credible voices, so don't overlook the fact that there are established pioneers that you should be going back in time and going back in history and then looking at them as well, right? So
Sure.
these are all the three sources that I would say. Does that answer the
Got it.
question we went down this path with?
Yeah, yeah. No, I know we have quite a few more topics to cover. So I wanted to see
Yeah.
if if you can maybe step it up a level and just quickly walk us through. Okay, what else your flywheel consists of? Why should what's there to learn, so we can maybe move it along a little bit further
Yeah,
fast.
absolutely. So once you have built that initial hypothesis and thesis
Yeah.
of your point of view, the next thing is consistency beats novelty. This is a
Mm,
big point that I would emphasize over and over. It's
mm,
super important for you as a brand to put content, to be in touch with your market, to be in front of your buyers and users more often than not,
mm,
right? Not
mm.
an attempt where hey, let's put out a webinar this month and then 2 3 months go and pass by and you're not there. That's an
Got it.
example. You should be
Mm-hmm.
out there on a consistent basis, and
Okay.
it's also important for that story to be told not just by one person
Mm.
but multiple voices within your company. And I
Yeah.
would also add to the next level, which is what I call as a distributed ownership, which is multiple voices in the industry as well. So it's just
Okay.
not you beating your chest and telling your story, but having your customers, having the industry thought leaders
Yeah.
validating or improving on the point of view.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And as you're putting all of those things out, this is where I'll come back to signal led iteration.
Mm.
That's when you start seeing, okay, which of the messaging is resonating or which is not. And then you amplify, go down that path.
Yep.
And that's a constant flywheel. It's not like a one attempt that you do in a month and you're done for the rest of the life or rest of the tenure of this company, but it's almost like an ongoing, like a quarterly basis.
Got it. Now, do you have something even more precise or measurable in terms of you know how an enterprise POV can be developed in a way that you can measure the impact? I'm just wondering, what do you have in terms of measurement and measurement metrics around
Yeah,
this?
so from a measurement point of view, so that's a good segue into the next one, which is once you've developed a point of view and you have developed what I would say at a brand level. So you need to
Yeah.
have messaging and points at a brand level. You also need to have it at product slash use case level. Then you
Yeah.
start putting it out on all these various channels.
Okay.
That's critical. So
Mm.
again, you can see here I make it even more relevant. Again, take going back to the example of the CMOs and demand slash growth personas. If you are trying to target them, as an example here, what are those
Yeah.
tier one B2B marketing and leadership publications, the media that you should be targeting? How about
Mm-hmm.
the podcasts or video series, the analysts and influencers,
Mm-hmm.
peer and community platforms,
Mm.
event and meetup ecosystem, and then our own plus partner channels. So as
Yeah.
you're putting out your content across all these different channels, here this is it goes back to the question that you're asking, which is what are the ways to measure and see if it's resonating or not.
Yeah.
And I this is what I would prescribe
Mm.
is think of it as like three categories or three layers of metrics. The
Mm.
first one is how well are you articulating and putting out your thought leadership slash point of view
Mm.
aspects and narrative. And
Mm-hmm.
the way to measure that is brand sentiment. So do a survey uh, with either your prospects or your customers
Mm-hmm.
and see what is resonating and what is not. Earned media slash share of voice is what kind of a pull are you seeing when the top tier or any tier for that matter to start with, like publications who are really quoting you and your brand and your leaders.
Okay. Mm.
Okay. The next one is domain and content authority. This is becoming even more bigger and bigger. Actually, the last two are kind of interrelated. Like,
Mm.
what kind of organic traffic are you getting, and for which of the content pieces or the narratives that's really resonating? So that those metrics, SEO and GEO slash AEO, really tell you like how well you're showing up and how
Mm.
much of attraction you're getting out there with the market through all the different channels that I covered earlier.
Got it.
So that's your first layer. So that's your brand authority and thought leadership.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is around advocacy and influence.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the point which I mentioned earlier, which is yes, you beating your chest and saying out loud, hey, this is a point of view is good, but how many other folks in your industry are you pulling along?
Mm-hmm.
That is key. And that's where I go back to advocacy activation. Again, go back to that 10 customers, as I mentioned earlier. Let's say you're at 1 million ARR, hopefully higher, right? Even 10 customers, go back and identify those advocacy voices, the
Yeah.
champions who are willing to say in public
Mm-hmm.
and endorse you, right?
Yeah.
So have a clear program around that. And then when I say external reuse is when you reach out and enlist your thought leaders
Mm-hmm.
in the ecosystem, how well are you enabling them as well? And
Yeah.
how efficiently or how much of your content pieces or narrative or point of view are they is getting repeated externally by others in the system?
Mm-hmm.
And the third layer is the momentum and the market impact, right? So if all of these, the first two pieces are working well, you'll start seeing more and more qualified inbound. You can track it with various UTMs across the different channels.
Mm-hmm.
And other key aspect is how much of whatever you're putting out there is being reused internally.
Got
So
it.
in the second category, we talked about external reuse. It's also important to bring folks not just at the leadership level, but even within marketing, within sales, within customer success. How, first of all, are they aware of the different narratives and the content pieces that they should be using? And if so, how well are they using in their conversations with your customers and prospects?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If done well, again, the last line over here is it all boils down to these key aspects, right? The flywheel, which is first of all, you need to build authority that translates into trust.
Mm-hmm.
And you have influencers, and influencers will spread your proof, and that will show what's working and what is not. And then it all translates into momentum and growth.
Yeah.
So my
Got it.
Uber point I want to leave the audience with is yes, enterprise point of view is super critical, but at the end of the day, if it's not driving pipeline and traction and market share, that's a clear feedback signal that something's
Mm.
not right.
Got it. So let's now get into um, how do we, in a sense, operationalize this, and then if you can maybe delve a little deeper into maybe some of the work you've done with different customers, engagements, kind of challenges, which what we could call challenges in
Yeah,
implementing, developing that POV, learnings from the field, you know, like when as you go through the process of trying to develop the enterprise POV, have you seen situations maybe GTM teams stall out, meaning they're not able to do it? Maybe there's some things getting in the way across marketing and sales and product and so forth. Um, and then what yeah, why don't we start there? Like, what have you seen are kind of the roadblocks in getting it done, and we'll go from
yeah,
there.
yeah. First and foremost, I would say going back to the framework and the 5 questions that I shared earlier
Yeah.
is having a master narrative for the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that narrative cannot be done in silos. And what I mean by that is it cannot be an initiative that's done by a person or a team within marketing and it's stuck there. It has to be a shared initiative. So, yes, someone in marketing or any, like even at the leadership level, you can take that initiative and frame it. But are you getting the input and how engaged is your C suite, the CEO, the CRO? And not just at the C level, even go down to multiple levels, like VP, director level as well. And how about
So
the
is
frontline?
this right? Is this what you end up maybe working with, like either the CEO or the CMO, and or somebody brings you in and they say, "Hey, can I help us develop this enterprise POV narrative?" And what's
Exactly.
the process? How do you go about doing it within an enterprise? What's your
Yeah.
process?
So, yeah, it all starts in my case. I mean, a couple of instances is typically it's been the marketing leaders at the
Yeah.
SVP and or VP level at brands that I mentioned.
Yeah.
or revenue ranges that I mentioned earlier, right? They identify and see a need.
Mm-hmm.
And a recurring theme that I see in money is they say the traditional demand gen channels and activities are not working.
Okay.
Or even if they are working, they're not confident that they'll be able to sustain in the pipeline momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they realize, hey, you know what, we should start laying down the groundwork of building our brand, having a point of view, building that flywheel. Yes, it'll take possibly 3 6 months to start seeing early signals. But if I, as a CMO or a CEO, if I'm concerned about my pipeline, I should start doing that groundwork now and iterating so that I can again stand out in a super crowded market. So that's
Got
how
it.
this conversation gets started.
Right. And has the conversation you found it typically starts when is it typically where they have pressure in terms of they need to grow and they're seeing some slowing down or stalling of the pipeline? Is that the trigger that you're seeing? But somebody realizes, hey, wait a minute, this could be one of the reasons why this is happening. Um,
Yeah, let me answer it in a different way. I mean, what I've seen again, I work with and interact with a lot of early stage startup founders,
right.
and what I've seen, especially for early stage startups and founders who have built good traction and are
Mm,
beyond a product market fit to scaling,
mm,
the founders realize the importance of having a point of view and
yeah.
standing out in a crowded market because you're expecting your buyers to change behaviors and habits,
Mm,
establish patterns, right? So
mm,
they get it. But as the company scales up, as the leadership team changes,
mhm,
right, and there's a new CMO or a new CEO, somehow the origin or the drive or the need for a point of view whittles down, the urgency goes down.
mm.
So that's something that I'm seeing. I observe across the board, across the different company stages. And going back to your question, uh, unfortunately, not many go-to-market leaders are realizing the need to have a point of view.
Ah, got it. Got it. You know, it's very interesting because similar to what you have been doing, trying to go into companies, help them with a POV, right, developing a POV. We recently got pulled in, right? The CMO called us in. He was a new CMO, just joined a $500 million company, and he brought us in. Me and I had another colleague. We went in together, but for him it was a bunch of other things he wanted to get sorted out. So it's really around, they had a lot of technology, a lot of tech overlap between different parts and pieces, and then they had a bunch of process breakdowns in terms of big gaps in terms of data, the data that they have available in the market today, as I said, to grab those signals, bring those signals in, build outbound nurture programs and campaigns. So I think it's very complementary actually to what you're talking about here, because
Yeah,
we went and actually helped them with consolidate and put together that literally that all the key information he needed to lay out a game plan for
right,
execution
right.
on, here are the technology overlaps we can cut down to bring more efficiency on the tech side, and here are the big low hanging fruit in terms of signals and data and process gaps. So if we solve for this, suddenly we'll have a much more engaged prospects and then start boosting pipeline that way. Now
Yeah,
you're talking about the other dimension, which is, can I say something that is truly differentiated, unique about our company, our enterprise, that grabs the attention of all those prospects that they're engaging with? So yeah,
yeah,
makes a whole lot of sense.
yeah. So if you can add on to that, money, I mean, an interesting outcome that came from my conversations with the brand's customers, right? So,
Yeah.
as I mentioned earlier, a key point for you to first of all build authority and credibility is being in touch with your customers. So, I went about going and speaking with some of the customers of this brand
Yeah.
and with the intent of, hey, I want to understand what you like about this brand and the product, how it's
Mhm.
helping you in your day to day,
Mhm.
and what are the challenges, and how are you building business case internally to first of all retain or ensure that the budget for this product and the brand remains or
Yeah.
expands, hopefully,
Mhm.
right? So some of the things that are uncovered include, yes, we love this product, but it's overwhelming we love those one or two features, but there are five or six other different features that I or my other team members are not able to put our heads around and see how
Mm.
to put it to use.
Mm-hmm.
Now, through my conversations in building a narrative that will resonate, and a surprising outcome is coming from all these conversations, which I'm getting at, which is there is also a new revenue stream that I'm identifying for these
Oh,
brands,
interesting. Got it.
right? Which
Expansion
was
revenue
not
stream that came out of the
exactly, which is not there
conversations.
before.
Okay.
Your own customers are saying, hey, I'm okay to help pay for this quote unquote a feature or a service to help me understand the other aspects of your product.
Interesting. Got it. So I think let me then move the discussion to another question, which is um, I'm sure you're seeing different customers where in some cases the POV is in fact aiding or helping in growing versus in some cases they develop some kind of POV, but then it again stalls or burns out after maybe they tried once, tried twice, try a
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
Um, what separates success versus not succeeding with this approach of developing a POV and executing against it?
Yeah, great question, man. I'm actually glad you asked that. So yes, you can have a framework. You might be aware of a system, but at the end of the day, it's about shared ownership. I'll say that's one aspect.
Hmm.
It cannot be one person or one team. It has to be a cross-functional effort. That's one. So
Yeah.
that's what I've seen work well with the winners who are finding traction with the POV. A
Hmm.
second and equally important is the flywheel that I
Hmm.
shared earlier, right?
Hmm.
It's an ongoing system where, let's say, you and your team develop a narrative you want to test out in different campaigns on different challenges. Do you have a system in place where someone has identified the right KPIs for each channel and
Hmm.
then seeing and identifying the signals that are either resonating or not, and then bringing it back into, hey, by the way, this message on, let's say, it's improving security as an example. Why
Hmm.
security matters? Sure. If you go down that narrative, that kind of a campaign is resonating versus security is a threat messaging is not resonating. I'm just making a pretty bland example, but the point here is you do you have a system in place where you actually test and see which of the messaging is resonating and which is not on which channel,
Got
and
it.
are you tying back all of these learnings and iterating on your messaging, your point of view, and the campaigns.
Got it.
So having
You,
that flywheel is also super important.
yeah, I think look what this is surfacing for me, which I've seen some companies maybe do it better than others, is a lot of people, certainly on the growth side and demand side, have a deep understanding of what I call demand metrics. How
Mm,
to understand prospects or engaging with your company on your website, off your website, social channels, communities, whatever. And so from engagement to how it translates into pipeline and so forth, right? I mean, that is the whole what I call the demand metric side of it.
yeah,
I look at a lot of things that you called out as really brand metrics, meaning on the brand side, being able to understand how well is the brand understood, perceived, sentiment,
right,
you know,
exactly.
and a whole slew of brand related metrics is if I look at all the different KPIs you talked about. Um, how are companies doing this tracking today? Is this a well developed area or is it still a lot of spreadsheets and people putting pieces together and, you know, the metric side of what you just called out, all the KPIs?
Yeah, so I would actually say, I mean, in my various engagements that I've had, right? So first is to really identify the different metrics. Let's say there are like seven or eight metrics.
Yeah.
For me, my working with the rev ops and the marketing ops or even sales ops teams is how well, first of all, are we tracking these metrics today? That's the first step.
Mm. Hmm.
Why or why not? And relations, I uncovered that, hey, there are these seven metrics, but we are tracking barely maybe one or two. So my
Interesting.
immediate focus then in the next 60, 90 days is let's not try to boil the ocean.
Yeah.
Let's figure out those MVP metrics, like two or three metrics, create a system. Again, I keep going back to it's an iterating, ongoing thing. It's a flywheel
Yeah.
thing, and it takes time. So as an organization, how do you build that culture
Mm.
organizationally in identifying just even with those two or three metrics and being systematic and being having a rhythm around it? So that's
Makes
one thing that I'm seeing, right? Your point about dashboards, yeah, sure. Dashboards at the end of the day are noise if it can't give you insights
yeah.
and what you act on.
No, no, fair enough. I was just trying to understand the
Yeah,
state of
yeah,
things in companies from in your experience.
right,
We have 5 minutes. So I want to kind of bring now move the discussion. We've discussed enterprise POV, how to track it, how to develop it. Let's get to just looking ahead. Just take it up a level into AI. We haven't talked much about AI, so I want to understand. Um, how is AI going to change things for marketers and their role? Because I mean, there's so much. It's gotten so much easier to just put content out there. So
exactly,
and then I know some people talk about how marketers need to be more multi-threaded, more versatile, be able to do multiple things, not just one thing and one thing well, which is the
right,
traditional marketer model.
yeah.
Um, so how do you see kind of the more modern version of, call it, AI savvy marketer? What does it look like to you?
Yeah. So first thing I would emphasize is, as you correctly pointed out earlier, money, which is putting out content is becoming a lot more easy today,
Mm.
which also means there's a lot of noise.
Mhm.
And I would go back and really reinforce in everyone's mind that having a point of view is becoming even more critical in this day and age
Mhm.
of AI.
Mhm.
That's one. Otherwise, your brand is just drowned. I mean, it's just another content noise emitter at the end of the day. So that's one. Second, I would say is using AI to really build and test out and look for those signals. Again, going back to the flywheel that I shared earlier, which signal is resonating and which is not. And doing that for multiple channels is not easy. I mean, for one or two people in a team, you can only scale so much.
Mhm.
And that's where I would go back and really use AI agents to automate some of the things in terms of like looking for the KPIs, metrics for each channel,
Mhm.
and building it back into or filling up in a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or a CRM and updating it. So all of those things can be automated with AI and AI agents,
Mhm.
right? And also using AI to test out different variations of your narrative, the Gen AI part of it. There's the agent part of it, and then there's a Gen AI part of it.
Mhm.
Test out, yes, you got your master narrative document. And again, going back to the five prompts that I mentioned earlier, what your
Yeah.
buyers are trying to achieve and where they're struggling and what the gaps are and risks of standing still, there'll be at least 10 to 15 points underneath each of those prompts.
Yeah.
In your campaigns, go test out the different combinations,
Mhm.
right? Use AI to generate. Of course, you need to proofread. You can't just blindly generate and put it out there in the wild. And then see which campaign is resonating on which channel and why or why
Mhm.
not. And then again,
Yeah.
going back to the whole flywheel.
Yep. Yep. And obviously, this gets even more complex. You get into a mid-market company, and they have millions of visitors to the site, and they have to scale up all their different outbound campaigns,
Exactly.
and then now they need a data lake, data warehouse. I mean, we're talking a whole different scale as you go into
Yes,
larger
completely.
companies.
Yeah, you
Uh,
mentioned an important point, right? Which is personalization, but then how do you do personalization at scale?
Personalization at scale, analysis and insights at scale too, where
Yes.
we've got literally you know hundreds of thousands, millions of data points all coming in
Yeah.
into a enterprise data warehouse and with time series data and so on. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, let's again then wrap this up. Final question. Um, just looking ahead 1, 2, 3 years from now, um, anything around how do you see this space evolving around developing an enterprise POV brand narrative? How do you see that changing over time?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I would like to see more brands, first of all, acknowledging and
Mhm.
accepting and saying that, hey, we need to have a point of view.
Yeah.
That's one.
Hmm.
Second is a point of view is not a once and done effort.
Mhm.
And that applies to so many things in various aspects, be it product, be it marketing, be it sales. Again, it applies to your brand and enterprise POE as well, right? Which is, yes, you do that exercise, but you're, again, you need to remember and make sure you have a system and a framework in place to see what is resonating, what is not, and iterate. So
Got it.
that's what I would say, like two very important things to keep in mind for the next 2 to 3 years.
Got it. So thank you, Vijay. Great session. Really appreciate it, folks. So that concludes episode 35 of AI GTM Talks. Come join us next week. We have another amazing speaker, Lachelle Lewis. She's going to join us, talk about bottom of funnel content, how that's transforming because of AI and so forth. But for now, Vijay, we've got your contact info. Is that how people should get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach me and connect with me on LinkedIn. And for the listeners and the audience here, I'm also doing like a free 30-minute assessment of their brand and POS system that they have. So absolutely feel free to reach out to me.
Great. Thanks, Vijay. Thanks for coming. Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.